Hello, and welcome to CIS 545 Week 5 presentation. My name is Russell Fagley. Today we're going to be going over what are some of the advantages of cloud-based ERP or CRM, and also what are some of the disadvantages of using a cloud-based ERP or CRM system. To start off, I wanted to go over a definition of what cloud computing is, which I found on dictionary.com. They state that cloud computing is the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data, rather than on a local server or a personal computer. Now, you've probably already seen this slide in Professor Simon's slide group number 31, but I did want to reference it here in my presentation. And as we could see, the idea of cloud computing wasn't really just started within the last 2 decades, but showed up as early as the 60s, where companies were paying application hosts to borrow time to use these applications off those company mainframes. Now, as we move on into the 90s, we started seeing these applications getting hosted on client servers as technology was becoming more advanced. And as we move on into the 2000s, we see companies like Salesforce really leading the way to providing enterprise systems in the cloud. And as we see with this growing popularity of cloud computing, a lot of companies started thinking, well, why should we deal with the headache dealing with the costs of maintaining this physical hardware in-house, as well as dealing with the complexity of having to build these enterprise systems on this in-house hardware? The companies that were trying to avoid this headache of building up an in-house enterprise system, or for those companies that couldn't afford it, they really started looking at cloud enterprise systems and seeing what benefits that they could provide. And one of the benefits that they saw was that it's a cheaper upfront cost, and this allowed for small and medium-sized businesses to afford really using these enterprise systems, since they were only paying licensing fees on a per user basis. Another benefit was that it took out a hefty load of maintenance and labor costs, so you don't really need to have a giant IT team, since you don't really need to roll out hardware or infrastructure for the enterprise system. And the cloud systems are also scalable, so it can increase on demand. Another benefit is that it's a quicker implementation, so you don't need to worry about having to perform hardware or software upgrades, and customizations were really limited on the cloud. So a lot of companies had to really form to the cloud system. Another benefit that we see with the cloud enterprise systems is that there's great integration with other third-party software. So we see examples like NetWeaver or Salesforce's App Exchange, which you can connect to other enterprise systems or use other software that would, the data can speak between those third-party software and your enterprise system. And lastly, we see that you can access your enterprise system from anywhere, since you're really just accessing it through a web interface. Although there's some great advantages of using cloud enterprise systems, there's also some disadvantages that companies need to be aware about. And one of these disadvantages is that if there is some type of outage, whether it be a power outage or a network outage where your enterprise system is hosted at, it really disables you from being able to access that system. Whereas, let's say if you had some type of network outage while your enterprise system was hosted in-house, you would still be able to access it, since it acts as a form of an intranet. There's also some security risks with using a cloud enterprise system, both physical as well as software. You really don't know where these physical systems are at, and it's easy to say that someone could steal your data by taking that physical system. And the software concern is that there's only permissions and software security barriers that are protecting your data on those shared systems. Another concern is that you don't really get as many customization options as you would with an in-house enterprise system. So you're really at the whim of the cloud system, and you would have to form your business to that online enterprise system. So the discussion questions that I have for you are, is your company using any form of cloud enterprise system? And if so, describe the functions that you use from that cloud enterprise system. And if you don't use a cloud enterprise system, do you use other forms of cloud technology, whether it be software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service? Here are the sources that I used for my presentation, and I look forward to seeing your responses.